And here's one here. This is from Graham, and he says, "There's only one man truly qualified to analyze the Padres at the trade deadline. We love you, Saw."
Guilty as charged. I have opinions. Had they gotten beat 2 out of 3 by Texas, I think they would have been sellers, which would have been really disappointing because I said all along, and I wrote a column about it, it would have sent a bad message to the community and to the fans. So we'll see if AJ can find a first baseman, part-time DH who can hit. Because of the wear and tear factor on some of the starters, is there a rental starter out there that maybe he could get? I would have thought that maybe he might have taken a run at CJ Cron, but Colorado traded him to the Angels. I would have thought that because they've done deals with Cleveland, Surveil would have been the kind of guy that comes in the middle of your rotation, the back of the rotation, and just gives you quality starts and innings. He's a crafty guy. He's got a 2.93 earned run average, but Padres either weren't willing, and this is the other part of the equation, not willing to give up the gems. And there's a couple of real gems in the farm system, but you're not going to trade Robbie Snelling, the left-handed pitcher, and you should not trade Jackson Morrell, the young shortstop who's now playing really well at Double-A. So it must be that AJ just is not willing to give up what these other guys are asking for.
Yeah, CJ Cron would have been a nice fit here because he could have been a DH first baseman, and we could have had the 2 Cron zone guys on one team. But I think the Padres roster is quite a bit different now that we have Luis Campusano, who's catching and hitting pretty well
so far.
And then Robert Suarez, with the exception of his first outing, he's looked really good.
Yeah, but that's right now. Guy with an elbow joint issue. You don't know a week from now how many times you use him. Does it flare? I would never get rid of Hader. And at this point, I would not trade Blake Snell. And obviously the Soto thing, he's banging it pretty good. I mean, you're hitting 286 with some power now since May. Why would you trade him now? You still got to sign him. I understand that. You still got to go through Scott Boras, but we'll see what AJ does. Historically, he's always done things, so we'll see if there's something else out there. The one intangible thing I will say this, John, before we go to the next group of people who got things to ask. Recently, it looks like they've found how to slot these guys in the bullpen. Hader in the 9th, Suarez in front of that, Nick Martinez. So now all of a sudden, you did not have that for a chunk of time. All of a sudden, it looks like we're fixed at 7th, 8th, and 9th inning if we have to make a call to the bullpen.
Yeah, and then you got Steven Wilson, for maybe the 6th inning. But Martinez lately has been a little shaky. I've heard some Twitter fans saying we're not sure about his cutter, that people are hitting it, but he's got a great curveball and changeup. So maybe Martinez, if he can dial it in, you got 4 guys. So if Snell only goes 5, then you have those 4 guys to carry it the rest of the way. That can work.
Yeah, and this is really the first time all year, all of a sudden, job responsibilities and roles and slots seem to be established. Okay, next question.
Okay, so let's go here to Joey Yarbrough, and he says, what's the Raiders' record going to be this season?
Well, I don't pick records right now. Let me get to the final week of August before the season starts, because records are based on who's healthy and who's not. And if you get a significant injury, whole things change. And right now, you can't prognosticate what the Raiders are going to be because there is no Josh Jacobs. There'll be a substandard offense without him. And, of course, there is no Darren Waller at tight end. He's having a great camp with the Giants. It's a little early. If Josh Jacobs is back there the last week of August as we go towards the start of the season in September, then I think the Raiders are feeling better. But they still got problems on the other side of the defense. So a little too early to give you an answer to that question. But last week of August, put your beer down and dial us back, and we'll be able to tell you better.
Yeah. Last year we did that NFL preview, and that was terrific. I mean, you have so much data you bring to the table. But the Raiders, you got to figure, are going to be at the bottom of the AFC West. But, Jimmy G, apparently he's looked good in camp.
He has, and there's an intangible thing here that nobody's really talked about. We probably throw this into the conversation. Garoppolo played in New England. He played for Josh McDaniels as a young quarterback out of Eastern Illinois, and he kind of blossomed in that playbook. So he walked into that office, into that facility in Las Vegas, sat down with Josh McDaniels, and the playbook that he was so fully involved with the Patriots is kind of like the same playbook He's running with the Raiders.
Mhm.
So he had inside knowledge. He kind of hit the floor running. Now, the big thing with Jimmy G, got to keep him upright, got to keep him on the field because he's had significant injuries. But smart cookie, I think his one-loss record in San Francisco is 31-14. That's pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, he's a steady Eddie kind of guy, but hit the floor running, but his ankle and his foot were giving him trouble. He couldn't run very much.
Yeah. On we go. Next question.
Okay, here we go. This is from Angel asking about the Angels. He says, keeping Ohtani, grabbing an arm, a few bats. You think the Angels did enough to grab one of the three AL wildcard spots?
Well, everybody in the world thinks everybody from the American League East is going to get all the wildcard spots, but that might not happen right now. The Angels they're going to have to win some key games here, beginning with their series tomorrow. They've got some challenges ahead, but at least they've added 6 players. And now I don't know when Mike Trout might be available. Is it sometime in September? And what percentage of Mike Trout will you get back if he comes off the surgery on the wrist and the hand? But if they can get Trout back in the lineup at the end of September, and if they're still hanging in the race, then maybe they make it. But they had no chance prior, and they would have had no chance if they'd moved Ohtani. They've got a much better chance because now they've added 6 guys, and they'll help Giolito find his rhythm in the rotation. And each of these guys has a track record of being able to hit, whether it's Cron, whether it's Randall Grichuk, obviously. And they're better now than they were a week ago this time. And I think the intangible thing there, John, is they're better mentally. I think those guys in that clubhouse say, holy cow, look what this general manager has given us in terms of veteran experience coming in the front door.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be a boost of confidence, to know that the ownership believes in them. And so they're putting more on the table. I hope the Angels can figure out a way because they've been so downtrodden. You got Trout, Ohtani, all these other guys, we're Hunter Renfroe fans as well. So let's hope that they can figure out a way to get in because, Angel fans deserve it.
7 guys on the DL. Man, that's horrid. And a lot of those guys are real key contributors to the Angel batting order. And who knows when they get Rendon back, if they get Rendon back. And like I say, who knows how much they can get out of Trout. Trout keeps saying he's coming back in mid-September. Time will tell. We move on.
So let's go here to Manny. He says, why hasn't the Big Ten offered an invitation to Oregon and Washington yet? The PAC ? Is a dying league.
Well, you can dump all over the PAC-9 if you wish, but I don't think those people view themselves as being on the conference deathbed. You can't make a judgment on anything in the PAC-9 right now until we actually find out what the dollar value of the contract is. Now, granted, the contract is going to be less than had they been the PAC-12, but like John and I argued about, and I'm sorry if we insulted people in Boulder, Colorado, what the hell did Colorado bring to the conference? It didn't really bring very much, except almost a guaranteed W every Saturday in college football for somebody they were playing. I'm not willing to say the conference is dead. If this TV contract number comes in at 37 or 40 million based on the 9 schools, and then they have the wherewithal to go create something else by getting somebody else, then maybe the Pac-12 will bounce back. The weirdest one that's out there is Notre Dame. And there just continues to be dialogue or maybe rumor beneath the surface that the Big Ten wants to talk to Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame's got this alliance with the ACC, but they're not really a conference member, and they still have their NBC TV contract, which they think is mega money. But Notre Dame and the Big Ten makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. Now, could the Pac-12 reach into South Bend and say, hey, would you want to come be part of this? I think that's absurd geographically. But hell, West Virginia being in the Big 12 makes no geographic sense to me at all. No. Same thing with Central Florida. So let's judge the Pac-9's future health after we find out the dollar value in the next couple of weeks of what the TV contract looks like.
But it's going to be the Pac-12 in 2023, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then 2024...
It'll be the Pac-9.
It'll be the Pac-9. But yeah, Notre Dame, I'm surprised they would never been in the Big Ten in the first place. I mean, historically, they've always been independent, right?
Historically, they've always been Notre Dame.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to talk to me,
mm-hmm.
genuflect first, show me how much money you got, and I'll talk to you. I've been in South Bend. I've been in that stadium. I mean, it is mystical. That touchdown Jesus thing,
oh, yeah.
That's for real.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. But That being said, they're not, football-wise, they're not what they used to be. Now, they've had some good stretches, Brian Kelly, and obviously the new coach coming in the front door, but it's just not Notre Dame as we've known Notre Dame through the 80s into the 70s to the 60s to the 50s, et cetera. So then they've fought off membership. They want to be on high. They want to look down on everybody, and we're Notre Dame. So that's why I haven't joined anywhere yet.
Okay, well, let's move on. We got some comments here from the social media friends, and let's go here to a comment here about Bob Melvin. This is from Mark Knox from Instagram. He goes, I'm reading a lot of negative comments about the players. No way. It's the coach. The team is awesome. Need a little help in the middle relief and a coach who understands situational baseball. Stop the hating.
Well, I do think there are critiques that are proper as it relates to Bob Melvin. Why are you not pinch hitting in certain situations? Why do you send this guy up unless you're trying to get this guy untracked? And the use of the bullpen. But that probably goes on to an awful lot of places. You go up the road with Dave Roberts, who's got 700 plus wins with the Dodgers all-time record, and he's getting raked over the coals for what are you doing with the batting order and, the kid pitchers and all that. So I think that happens all kinds of places. During the really bad stretches of Padre baseball, you wondered about team chemistry and you wondered about leadership and you wondered about relationships, the dugout, the manager to the people upstairs. And I'm around that team a lot and I hear those rumblings. And if I'm hearing those rumblings as a guy that's not in that clubhouse for every meeting, then I have to wonder if where there's smoke, there might be some fire. But nobody's making any changes unless this thing falls apart and they don't make the playoffs. Then I think there will be accountability that'll come into play with the conversation in October.
Yeah, I think Preller has got to just keep going all in and keep trusting on the deals that he's made. But just say hypothetically, the Padres decided to get rid of Melvin and replace him with Schilt. What's Melvin's deal? I mean, doesn't he have a few more years guaranteed?
Yeah, I think he's got at least one, if not two.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the issue. If they hit the eject button on Bob Melvin, who was a Preller hire, after Preller fired the guy he hired, Jay Stingler, and fired the guy he hired in Andy Green, and fired the guy he did not want in Bud Black, and refused to interview the guy they should have interviewed, Dave Roberts, you can make another managerial change. You're going to trust the general manager to make the managerial change again.
Well, Peter Seidler, he has full confidence in AJ Preller. He's the golden boy. He can do no wrong, but I feel kind of bad for Preller because he and Seidler had a strategy. They stepped up. They put their money on the table. They got some of the top players. It's just not working. And we all thought under Bob Melvin's leadership and experience, he'd be able to steady the ship. But right now, it still feels dysfunctional.
Hey, when they made those moves, you and I were yelling at each other. First place, baby.
Yes.
And they're in fourth place right now, pal.
Yeah, but they're on the upswing. So.
Well, we'll see where it goes. Next question.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit here about San Diego State. This is from Rob, and he said, Lee, you couldn't be more wrong, sir, about San Diego State not having much to offer the PAC12 conference or any other Power 5 conference. Look at what the football program has collectively accomplished over the last 10 to 15 years, especially against the PAC at 1/5 of the budget. They bring a top 30 TV market, target-rich recruiting grounds, academic standards as good or better than many PAC schools, certainly not Berkeley or Stanford. Great geography and location, infrastructure. San Diego State's a sleeping giant.
It's sleeping, that's for certain. Here's the big issue, and this guy is obviously a card-carrying member of the Aztec Club, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with rooting for your alma mater. The big question is, are there any PAC-10 schools out there that sell only 10,000 season tickets in a brand new stadium in a market of 3.5 million? The freaking alumni don't care. They don't even support the program. Now everybody's a front runner for basketball. Okay. But that being said, this football program's been pretty solid for a long chunk of years. And yeah, they've beaten a Pac-12 team, although I don't think it's sexy that you only play the bottom feeders in the Pac-12 and then you beat them. You say, hey, look what we just accomplished. Have you ever beaten Washington, Oregon, UCLA at one time, USC? So there's just an issue here. I've never been able to figure it out. Hell, I've been here since 1987. How could you have this many alums? San Diego State alums are every pocket of San Diego County and up the Inland Empire. How could you have that many people not care about their alma mater and about the football program? They don't support it. Community supports it. Some people in the community support it. But, if you're barking at me, we're a Pac-12 school. I know Pac-12 schools that sell 10,000 season tickets, and that's what their number is right now on a shiny new stadium.
Yeah, well, I got to figure Washington State, Oregon State, they sell well over 10,000, right?
They average 35,000 a game. You can't jam anybody in to Martin Stadium in Pullman any longer. I mean, and they haven't been great, but they support it. The student body supports it. Same thing in Corvallis. It's amazing. I mean, the Beavers are not the Ducks. The Ducks are a corporate team.
Oh, for sure.
The Beavers, Oregon State in Corvallis, is a mom and pop operation. They're one of the poorer athletic departments, like Washington State in the conference, and yet they sell out their bloody stadium and they compete like hell.
Mm-hmm. And they've got a much bigger stadium than Snapdragon.
Yeah.
Out there in Corvallis. But, right now the community is in love with the basketball program and the Aztec alumni are coming out for that. But I just really think being 2 years removed in Carson took the wind out of the sails. Yep. We were watching the games on TV where the Aztecs were at a distance. And then one of those years they failed to make a bowl game for the first time in a long time. So I think once this program starts winning again, I don't see why it wouldn't be what we're experiencing at Viejas Arena with a big fan base and a lot of excitement.
Yeah. I'll just say this as we close out, Robs. This is a great football schedule they're playing at home. They ought to be marketing, come see us and come see these teams that we're going to beat. Because they have a chance to have a hell of a season because they're playing all these guys here, led by Chip Kelly and UCLA.
Yeah, that'd be great to be able to knock them off. But you remember back in the day when they played Cal, and I can't remember who the quarterback was, but he was calling them San Diego bleeping State, and
Davis Webb.
That's who it was.
And they beat them.
Yeah.
They intercepted a whole pile of passes in the second half, and it was here at home. So I would just think they've got to find a way to market to the community that this is a hell of a schedule we're going to play. Come be the 12th man wearing red and black. Okay, we move on.
Here's little comments about UCLA and USC from Logan. He says, funny LMAO, because I cannot wait for both UCLA and USC football to play at Ann Arbor, Michigan, Columbus, Ohio, State College, Pennsylvania, or Twin Cities, Minnesota during November's cold freeze, hail, ice, or snow weather. Better buckle up on this adventure.
Yeah, I think the schedule is going to be unbelievably challenging. I think the travel, is going to be a bitch for these guys. USC travels 21,000 miles in 12 weeks. That's an enormous amount of time on the plane. And now, granted, they're playing an imbalanced schedule. SC plays more road games, I think, this year in the conference. They'll get more home games next year, and the UCLA is the flip of that. But I think it's going to be an enormous challenge because those schools, you go play at Camp Randall Stadium in Madison, Wisconsin, that's like an insane asylum. It is so loud and it is so big. And obviously you play in the Horseshoe in Columbus, and Ann Arbor's 106,000, or maybe it's 110,000 now. And Harbaugh's got those guys really cranked up. So it'll be an enormous challenge. It's not like you're playing downtrodden Washington State or overwhelmed Stanford going forward. Now you're playing big boys. And as we've seen, you see some of these other teams in the Big Ten. There's some pretty good football programs in the Big Ten. Maybe not Rutgers, maybe not Maryland and some of those people, but I think it's going to be an enormous challenge for SC and UCLA to go east. Yeah, it will be a big challenge. But you know what? I think they're going to eventually be up to it. They've got a history, both those football programs. And this whole thing is just driven by money, right? Yeah. I mean, that's why they went into the Big Ten. They're going to get a lot more resources. UCLA is going to kind of repair their balance sheet, which is in turmoil. And I think these programs are going to grow. And maybe at first they might get knocked around a little bit, especially in November, as we were talking about. But I think it'll be exciting for them to maybe step up. And who knows, maybe they can win the Big Ten. Well, Caleb Williams is obviously the guy that's going to carry the Southern Cal flag, and he's got the flag in his right hand. He's got the Heisman Trophy in his left hand, and he is great. UCLA as a whole, it's a whole different entree. We're going to talk more about that later in the week. I mean, UCLA is really in the middle of rebuild because there is no quarterback and there is no running back, and they're gone. And obviously, Chip Kelly has got to fix his defense, which has been substandard. So we'll talk more about it as we go. But I think in the big picture, these guys are going to be on everybody's target list when they go into all these places, whether it's Ann Arbor or East Lansing or Madison or even Bloomington or West Lafayette, Indiana. Yeah. It's not going to be an easy place to go play because they are who they are, bringing their reputation, their flag, their Heisman Trophy quarterback in. It's going to be challenging. Let's do a couple more here before we close it out.
Okay, so let's talk here a little bit about the Padres. This is from Charlie, and he says, Hacksaw, you have to understand that the Padres are selling out, but it's not a complete sellout of full capacity, 42,445. Padres consider attendance of 39,000 as a sellout. Padre fans have bought most of the tickets for this year already. It doesn't make sense for them to not attend the game. All season tickets are sold. There's a handful of single tickets available. Padre fans won't boycott games because their money has already been spent.
Well, you're correct. But my statement that I made last week is if this turns out to be a seller of a season, it's not going to. But if they sold off, bad message, missed the playoffs, bad message, prices continue to go up, bad message. Fans going to come back to the volume they were at this year, Petco? That's a huge debate thing. But let's see if they can push this boulder up the hill, see if AJ can make a deal by Tuesday night to add something here that'll make a difference. And then we'll see if they can push their way August into September. A lot closer now than they've been closer in a while. But the whole season spins on what happens with these 4 games against the Dodgers. If the Blue come in here and beat them up with their bats, and the season would effectively be over, their wild card chances would be gone. However, if these bats here, swinging Fryer and all that, these bats beat up that bad Dodger pitching staff that had an ERA of July of 6.15, maybe the Dodgers are the one in trouble, and the Padres then propel themselves into the race. But so we got 2 months of baseball to play. It's going to be fascinating. But this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, this decides the whole game, I think.
Yeah, I think Manny and Juan Soto, they're all looking forward to facing Lance Lynn, right? Because they're going to get those high fastballs and they're going to kill them. So, but go to the attendance numbers. It's interesting because a lot of times they call it a sellout, and you could see on television there's a lot of empty seats. So it always makes you wonder what the standard really is.
Well, are they sellouts? Are they no-shows? Or are they only calling it a sellout based on the lockdown number that they've got? It's semantics. You look at what's going out there at Gallagher Square out in the outfield. That's so cool. And those prices are different than the prices inside at Petco Park. It's become a destination point. It's become a good thing to see. It'd be nice if the Padres would hold up their end of the equation and actually put this team in the playoffs again and see if they could make this thing come together, because they've really underachieved. Hey, listen, that's our Monday bonus podcast. We have